Hi there and welcome to Planet Zoo. Today I'm back with an update in my Thailand the Islands park, which is coming along at a nice steady pace. This last week I've been working on completing this main stretch of the main road, and I've also been building around the centre of the main island. So first things first, I've completed this corner of the road here, and for that I've built this apartment block building and another hotel. The apartment block is quite a unique design, and I've used real-life examples of apartment buildings in Thailand to build this. On my Google Street View jaunts that I've been doing around Thailand, I noticed that a lot of the older apartment blocks like this, they're basically a big concrete shell, usually with shops on the ground floor, and a lot of them have this unique fully enclosed balcony thing going on, so a quite ornate floor-to-ceiling barrier. Now, it's an interesting design choice, which I'm guessing when these real-life buildings were constructed, this was probably chosen because it's much quicker and cheaper to construct these buildings like this as concrete blocks, and then attach the gated fascia onto that rather than having an actual balcony wall made out of concrete too. So I've worked hard to make this look as realistic as I possibly could. Now, unfortunately, we don't really have any metal railings in Planet Zoo that were suitable to recreate this properly. So I've built the railings out of the slimmest wood piece that we have, which, I think it still works quite well. As a whole, I quite like it. I've got the little shops down here, and I have fully decorated the building, including filling in the details at the back here. So a bit of a gated car park and drop-off zone for the shops at the back. So moving on, next up I've created a hotel on the corner here. Now this is also based off a real life hotel building in Thailand. This hotel's a little fancier than the other budget hotels I've got further down the road there. I like to think that this is more of a mid-range hotel for those with a higher budget. So we've got the low budget like hostel type hotels. Then we've got this mid-budget, possibly a Holiday Inn or Ibis type deal. And at some point I will get to creating a very luxurious high-budget hotel, probably in a couple of weeks, that one. For this mid-range build, you've got a bit more luxury than the budget option, and a little bit of decoration around the front of the building fascia as well to reflect that. Little unfortunate for anyone staying in these top rooms here. I mean, you pay for the sea view and get stuck with a palm tree view instead. But that's kind of true to life because that does happen all the time. Now, around the back of this hotel, I've not really decided what I'm going to do with this space here. I was thinking of maybe making a very small courtyard, or maybe I'll leave it as a bit of green space, to be honest. It doesn't look that bad. Anyway, moving on. The other section of the build that I've been working on recently is a cafe, and I decided to make this into a rainforest cafe. I'll be honest, I don't know how realistic this really is because there aren't any rainforest cafes in Thailand. But, it could be plausible, and it fits in well with the theme, considering this whole zoo is basically a rainforest build. Now, the sign for the cafe? Oh, the sign. This took a ridiculous amount of time to make. And it's comprised of around 1,500 pieces. Yes, you heard that right. This one tiny sign is about 1,500 pieces. So yeah, almost drove me to madness creating this. To make it, I basically used the 4-meter video screen to template out the logo. This is an old trick that I picked up from the Planet Coaster days where you'd have a video screen and load a picture onto that, and then you could template out with some of the art shapes that what was on the picture. Now, with Planet Zoo, obviously we've got the custom billboards now, but also in Planet Zoo, you've got some really tiny pieces. So like some of the lettering is really small, and you can use this to template something out that's very small, much smaller than you could in the Planet Coaster days. So yeah, this is my first attempt at doing a logo sign, and I probably will do more of these in the future, just maybe space them out a bit so that I'm not cramping my hand up so much. Right, moving on. So, like the other side of this island, I've got a bit of a slope path up here, so we've got some safety barriers on either side. We don't want guests falling down that big cliffside. Very dangerous. This path takes you up to the higher level, and before we get to the cafe, I'll just quickly show you this staff building that I've added here. So this is an implied kitchen to service the cafe, and I've even put a little back entrance here that would be a staff only area. This is a functional building and there is a staff room buried in here, but it's not decorated on the inside, so we won't linger on this building too much. I went with a concrete style building here, very plain, because I feel like that's what would be more realistic. It's also tucked away under some extensive vegetation here, and again, I feel that's realistic because you would just let the plants overgrow the building to kind of hide it from view. Right, so further down the path here is the actual cafe. I went with a circular build on this so I could make use of this wonderful thatch roof. This is a custom pattern that I made, and what I like about this, I've added these little ventilation pieces in the roof. I've added this because a building like this is going to be retaining a lot of heat from the sun. So yeah, a nice bamboo structure, environmentally friendly build, and a nice change of pace from all the concrete and plaster that I've been using down on the main street. So let's take a look inside. Now, it is a little claustrophobic in here, and I have gone a bit overboard with the vegetation, but from the reference material that I've been looking at with the real rainforest cafes, this is fairly accurate for that, I think. Granted, this build maybe is a bit smaller than your average rainforest cafe, but it's big enough to look plausible for this. So let me take you through some of the details in here. First off, I've got these stone walls for the entrance, and I'm not sure if I'm going to keep these, to be honest. It is making what is a small space even smaller. I mean, the wall looks fine and all, and it's a nice concept. I'm just not really sure if it's practical to have it inside this building. Anyway, as soon as you walk into the cafe, you've got this nice little centerpiece here and some natural rainforesty vegetation here and there. For this, I've deliberately mixed like real natural vegetation in with some of the fake pieces of rainforest vegetation from the South America DLC. That was deliberate because it's the sort of thing that a restaurant like this would do. Kind of gives a bit of depth to the centerpiece. Now, I'm really in love with the statement lighting I created here. This is made out of an African-themed lamp and the New World geometric shapes. What I really like about this is that it's pretty simple to put together. There's not hundreds of pieces for it, but it still looks quite elegant, I think. I've continued that theme with the lamps over the tables too, so it's kind of the same as the centerpiece ones, just a little simplified even more. Now, for the dining area itself, I've used the New World picnic benches to make this look like booth seating. The problem with this is it looks lovely now, but once the guests are in here, they are definitely going to start clipping through the scenery with this, but whilst it's empty, it looks quite nice. For the flooring in the cafe, I've gone with the log floor, and I think this is the first time I've actually used this floor. I've always found the log flooring to look a bit fake, but for this build it actually works there. I'm imagining this flooring would be some kind of hardware and vinyl floor type job, so vinyl floor with a pattern of logs on it rather than an actual log floor. So looking fake for this purpose is actually good. Now, something with this build that did cause me a little bit of a headache, to get the centerpiece how I wanted it, I've played around with the floor level a little bit. This was so that the little pond in the middle here flows down. In hindsight, that was probably a bad idea, and I probably should have just left it on one level. Would have been easier to build, that's for sure. Anyway, it is what it is, and changing the floor level is a way to make your builds look a little bit more interesting too. So, back at the cafe here, I've implied this is where the kitchens would back into the cafe, and I've got some implied toilets here too. Unfortunately, there isn't actually enough space back here to have a real toilet block in here, but I wanted it to at least look like there was a toilet. I did manage to squeeze in a Gulpy Energy and a Mexcellente shop in here though, which above these was a great place to squeeze in one of those signs again. Seriously, the amount of time it took to make that sign, I'm getting my money's worth out of it. So yeah, generally I'm pretty happy with how things are looking here. I even decorated the cafe for nighttime as well, so if we take a look at it at night, see it looks cool from the windows outside, and I love how the lamps are looking inside. It's really pretty. So that's the cafe. Now, if you do like this cafe enough, I have added it to the Steam Workshop, so you can download and use it yourself. Just note that the cafe sign is uploaded separately, and that's simply because the piece count was so big, it would have gone over the piece count for the whole cafe. the issue with the split level flooring as well, you might have some problems placing the path on this build if you did download it. Please don't shout at me for that, I'm sorry. It was a mistake to have the flooring split level like that, so I probably am going to get a few angry people on Steam complaining. Anyway, moving on. I've added a little implied picnic area out front here. Now, this is an implied picnic space, it's not actually functional. And that's because the in-game picnic benches, you can only place them on a path. And that wouldn't do at all for what I was going for here. I really wanted this section to make use of the natural vegetation, so I used the umbrellas and I mocked up my own picnic benches out of the wood pieces. If we could at some point have invisible paths in the game, that would be a game changer for me for situations like this. Maybe it's something our talented modders might take a look at some point. Anyway, I'm rambling again, so let's move on. So we have the nice picnic space here, and the path here joins up nicely with the binturong exhibit. So the way this is set up, the guests might approach from the binturong trail and find themselves taking this route through to the cafe. It'll be interesting to see what route the guests take when I eventually open this up to visitors. That being said, I am not holding back on the piece count with this zoo at all, so I may end up in a situation where it's actually unplayable with guests in the park. We'll have to see about that. Anyway, so this other side of the cafe, I've set up this little adventure park here, and I've got to say, this was a really fun little side build that I was doing over the last couple of days. My inspiration for these pieces, I basically just looked at a load of photos on Google of adventure parks, and this little tower back here, I basically just stole one of the in-game hard shelters and added the stairs. The slide tower thing here, this was more me just using my imagination to come up with something for this. So I've got this weird tunnel thing underneath with the chains keeping it all together. This is where the kiddies would probably crawl through it. Oh, and they would smack their head on the pole coming out the other side. Fun for all the family. The slide is also a wooden slide, and that's purely because the wooden plank was the most suitable piece for me to shape this the way I wanted it. So yeah, kiddies probably need to watch out for the splinters on that too. Something else I figured was perfect to place here is the ice cream hut. What better place for it? I mean, you've got your kids running around. What can possibly go wrong when you add ice cream to that mix? Sticky ice cream hands all over the equipment. Sounds lovely. Anyway, I've suitably dressed up the ice cream hut to have this island feel to it. I also found this lovely little poster of a real Thai ice cream. Looks like it's green tea flavoured ice cream. Isn't it that quite a lot of Asian countries go mad for green tea flavoured things? So I think in Japan you have your green tea flavoured Kit Kats. Hey, who knows? I just thought this was a really pretty sign, and the colours came out really well for once, because sometimes you can have issues with the billboards where the colours are a bit washed out. This one seems to work great, so maybe you just need really vibrant colours in your billboards for it to work like that. Anyway, so beyond the ice cream hut, the main path winds back down to the main road, and up here I've added another set of usable toilets here. Again, this building's relatively dull in comparison to some of the other buildings that I've made in this zoo, and that's a deliberate choice because it's basically just a service building. But there is actually toilets in here, so guests will use them. Like the other side of this building though, I've not actually decorated inside. Gotta save myself some of the piece count somewhere, so we won't be taking a look inside there. Right, so that, friends, is everything built in the park so far. It really is coming along nicely. I'm actually surprised, to be honest. It's been a few months now, and my interest in this park hasn't waned. I'm not going to say for certain, but this may be the first proper zoo that I actually complete. Maybe, just maybe, I'll see this one through to the end. Anyway, I hope you like what I've been building here. As always, let me know what you think of it in the comments. It really does make my day hearing all your opinions on the stuff I build, particularly when you guys say something nice about it. That's everything for today though, so if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.